OMG, can you believe we've reached episode 5 already?
No, it's insane. Speaking of which, we should probably start the podcast.
Yeah, probably.
Hello, and welcome to Romance Isn't Dead, episode 5, A Slave to Sensation, or Have You Seen My Panther? I'm Sally.
And I'm Ray. Well, I hope that this week has been good to you. This last fortnight, I was introduced to a brand new author in the form of Nalini Singh and her psy-changeling series. I think it was the first one, Slave to Sensation. This week, we're going to be talking all about that and how we feel about it and the paranormal genre. Would you say it's actually paranormal?
I would say it's paranormal. I think that we were chatting earlier and you said that, what were you saying that Amazon has this book listed as?
I think it's sci-fi and fantasy.
Okay. So
that's where I found it.
Okay, so sci-fi, because it's futuristic, because it's set 100 years or so in the future, and then fantasy, because it's fantasy, right? It's fantasy. But I would probably put it there as well, although you could maybe make the argument for something else rather than maybe supernatural, because the characters don't use magic, right? So if you think of supernatural in sort of a narrow sense, then I could get on board with saying that it's not supernatural because these abilities are just innate abilities. Does that make sense? So that would make it more... Yeah. But
I don't think I've read far enough, not in this book, but in the series, to discover that there is no magic yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess definitions of magic and whatnot.
I was waiting for a wizard to appear.
Yeah, but there's not... I've read the vast majority of this series, and I don't... Nothing springs immediately to mind that makes me think this is... Yeah. Now, but we kind of get into... In later books, we kind of get into some stuff that I would put it in supernatural. Let me be clear. I would put it in supernatural, but I can see why Amazon maybe chose those two. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
Okay.
Right. Well, this book was your choice. So I know that it's because you've already said that you really love the series, but why did you pick this one?
Well, I thought that it would be a good change because, you know, we had just done historical, and I thought, all right, well, let's fast forward and not just go to contemporary. Let's go sort of the other end of the spectrum. And I thought, and I always had this book on my choose list at some point, but I just thought it would be a good one. And I think that Nalini Singh is fantastic at world building. She really paints to me a fairly vivid picture of what the world perhaps looks like in 100 years if this had been the evolutionary direction that humanity and the world had gone. So I thought, yeah, let's do this. It's a fun pick for a second book for our romance series. So anyway, that's why I chose it. I love it.
I can tell. Your expression is admiration. So you said that it's future, it's world building and everything else. So for anyone who hasn't read it yet or is thinking of picking it up, what would you say it's about?
First of all, if you've not ever listened to any of our podcasts and this is your first one or whatnot, we are going to spoil the heck out of this book. So this is
not so much. We're going to reveal the ending.
This is our virtual book club, so we are discussing this book, right? But and so there's your spoiler warning. If you don't want to, then if you don't want to hear what we think about various and sundry things, then you should go read the book and then come back and listen, and then you can talk to the podcast and we'll be happy to listen to you. So, quick synopsis. The book is set in 2079-ish San Francisco, and Slave to Sensation is the story of Sasha and Lucas. The world consists of 3 races, human, psy, and changeling. Sasha is a cardinal psy with a huge untapped mental power, and Lucas is the alpha of the Dark River Leopard Pack based in the San Francisco area. We're introduced to the Snow Dancer Wolves. Hello, Hawke and Riley. It's very nice to meet them. They're very delicious. Sasha feels that she is disintegrating mentally and is in fear for her life. Her mother puts her in charge of a business deal with the Dark River Leopards where she meets Lucas. This is their story. It seems there is a psy serial killer on the loose, and he's been terrorizing changeling women across the country for years. Sasha is Dark River's way into the ranks of the psy to find this killer and bring him to justice. Along the way, they do exactly that, and they are able to also figure out how to get Sasha out of the net, and Sasha and Lucas live happily ever after. We think.
See, there are the operative words here. Happily ever after. However, this is only the first in the series. They are meant several in the future book.
But you know what? Sasha and Lucas are happy, right? I mean, it's not that they don't have challenges in their life, but they are happy.
I think so.
You know, they have found their true loves, and I am a sucker for a true love story, for a fated love story. I'm a total sucker for it. That is my jam. I love that idea, and in almost any incarnation, I'm like, yes. So
yeah. It's soulmates.
Yay! And ironically, though, one of my favorite psy-changeling books is actually about a couple that's not necessarily mates, which is interesting. It's very interesting, but I still love it. I still love it.
So exactly, you've mentioned the human, the psy. Obviously, everybody knows what a human is. I was going to say, if you don't, we're human.
No special. There's nothing really special about us.
Hey, I think we're special. And then there's the psy. So who are they?
Okay, well, actually, let me take this. Let me say, I just said there's nothing really special about us, but in later books, Nalini Singh actually goes to the trouble of talking about what does make us humans important and special in this world. And, you know, humans tend to be the moderators, the mediators, and humans also tend to be the artists.
Yeah, I did see that. She mentions how, the artists and how they are the ones that provide the world with beauty.
Yeah. So there is something special about humans. We just don't necessarily maybe realize it. Okay, so the Psy are a race, also obviously humanoid. Everyone is humanoid in this. But the Psy are a race gifted with amazing mental capabilities. The downside for them is that they have to be hooked into this Psy net and receive feedback from other Psy so their minds don't starve. They have to have amazing amounts of
psychic energy.
Yeah, psychic energy to feed them. And 100 years ago, so 2070 or 1079-ish or 1970, good grief, 1979-ish. Woo! I'm heading back to William the Conqueror. No, so in 1979 or so, was it 77, 70? Anyway, moving along, late 70s. They came up with the idea because the Psy, because of their mental capabilities, were also prone to madness. And I guess that makes sense in that context. Yeah. And so they came up with this idea to relieve the Psy of being mad. And to do that, they would condition emotion out of their young. Okay, first of all, didn't we learn from the Jedi that that's not the best idea? But that's neither here nor there.
You had to get that in there.
But that said, the whole thing about we can look at this and go, that seems like a really bad idea, because if you don't have emotion, like in theory, Spock's a good thing, right? In theory.
Well, yeah, in theory.
Yeah. But in practice, if you don't have emotion, then that breeds sociopaths, right? And psychopaths, if you don't feel for other beings.
But then Spock is half-human.
Right, but I'm just saying pure Vulcan. And even them, you know. So the psi, and when I say, and see, this is one thing, they have these mental capabilities that I would probably, from our perspective, look supernatural, right? They can, some of them are teleporters, some of them are telekinetics, and the most dangerous among them can be very, very deadly. So,
like Sasha's mum, right? She can implant
mental viruses. Yeah, mental viruses. Now, here's the other thing. I mentioned that she's a cardinal psi. So their scale is 1 to 10, and then if you're off the scale, you are a cardinal, and that manifests itself physically in your eyes. Your eyes are black with stars, like white specks, which I think would be creepy AF in person.
Oh yeah,
for the record, but they sound really, really pretty on paper. So let's roll with it. And so those are the psi, and Sasha is a cardinal psi, but she's undesignated. They don't know what she's a cardinal psi in, and what we find out is that she is an empath. And if you're an empath, of course, that really has no place in a system that has no emotion. But as you get,
why she's losing her,
and that's why she's losing her mind, because she can't. She's having she's got all this untapped potential that she hasn't been trained to do, and it's just wow. It's pretty intense. And so then the changelings are humans who can change into animals. So they're very in touch with their animal side, and we meet members of both the leopard pack and the wolf pack, and we do meet one leopard who is latent, like he can't change, and that contributes to him being very angry a lot. But
we also meet a panther.
Do what?
We meet a panther too, though, don't we?
Yeah, there's a panther, and we've also, and there's some fluidity there about what.
They're cats.
Yeah, the cats. And so, we also find out that there are other changelings, and as she continues to build the world over the next few books in the series, you find out that there are lynxes, and you find out that there are snakes, and you find out that there are waterborne changelings. And so it's really interesting to me anyway. And I don't think I'd want to be a snake changeling.
No, I don't think I would either, though I'm sure that my nephew, the herpetologist, would love it.
Yeah, that's probably true. But, the thing is, like, when they describe him, or a snake changeling, it's like when they are human, they have this sort of otherworldly beauty. Like, they're really beautiful in kind of an otherworldly way. I don't know. I just, not my jam.
I'd say I haven't come across those.
But I live in an area of the world where we have more than just a couple of venomous snakes, so yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. But anyway, there are winged changelings, so people that change into birds. So anyway, speaking of which, this is completely off topic, but I have to tell you, I have never seen a bald eagle in person. And recognized as I was seeing it flying, hey, that's a bald eagle. And we were on our way up to my parents' house yesterday, for reasons that will go unmentioned on the podcast. And my husband slowed down, and we looked up in the tree, and there was an eagle. She came out of the tree, and she was chasing other birds away. She's got eggs in her nest, and she's got this beautiful white tail, and you could see her head, and she's like, I see an eagle. It's big, but my dad was telling me that they don't have any rabbits left around, and
Well, they're hungry.
Yeah. I mean, but there are no rabbits, and all the little vermin and stuff are pretty much gone, because mating pair of eagles they take care. Yeah, exactly. But she was chasing other birds off, like. And if you're a blue jay, are you going to mess with an eagle? No. Peace out. So anyway, sorry, but there are winged changelings as well, which I thought was super cool. And anyway, so those are our races.
Yeah,
okay?
And I did notice, the one thing I noticed was, unlike in a lot of TV shows and things, these changelings, when they change from their animal form to their human, they're naked.
They are. They have to find clothes. So there is no magic in that, right? Except their clothes apparently disintegrate when they, and I would think that if, they would be in like these really awkward t-shirts. Their jeans would still be on. How would that work? I don't know. But yeah, when they change back, they're naked. So they tend to keep a lot of clothes around, cached. As cats do, they cache things, and so they keep things. And the other consequence is they're really used to being naked, right? I mean,
it's got zero shyness.
Yeah, but because as a kid, you run around and you're changed, I guess, back and forth and whatnot, and they don't, they just don't.
I have a horror story of that, and my mum has a photo of me running around our garden at the age of about 7, totally starkers, in what is called summer in the UK, but is really probably about autumn to you.
Probably spring, more rain.
Yeah, and cold.
It's so cold here. Sorry. But what you need to understand, I live in South Carolina. We have 4 seasons. There's almost summer, not quite summer, and Christmas. That's it.
That sounds quite nice.
Yeah. I mean, October has the capability of being 90 degrees. Period.
Oh, summer doesn't even have that.
Oh my gosh. No, our summer's 104 or something. And we're like, oh, it's 99. That's better. It's not 100. It's 99 and the heat index is 107. Shut up. It's hot. But, let me tell you, I'm off topic. But my stepson, we have a screened-in porch. It's got 2 ceiling fans on it. And it's a screened-in porch, for heaven's sake. There's a TV out there. Why wouldn't I want to go out there? And it was probably 90, 92, 93, somewhere in there. And my stepson's like, oh, Sally, it's kind of hot out there. I don't think you want to go on the porch. And I was like, I was born in South Carolina in the 70s. I went to elementary school with no air conditioning, and high school for that matter. It's 90 degrees on the porch with a ceiling fan, so I'm in the shade. I think I'll be all right. Thanks, bud.
Whereas over here it gets to 85 and everyone's going, it's a heat wave, it's a heat wave.
I'd be like, wait, what? I need a sweater. I need a sweater, people.
You see, that's the thing. I live on the south coast in the UK, so we have the sea, and we have sea breezes, which are very, very cold. And we have sunshine today. It's blue skies, but it's cold. But it is February.
Yeah, I guess. All right, let's move back.
Yeah, let's go back to the book.
Okay, so what else did you want to talk about?
What did you think about the book? You said you've talked about all the characters and everything else. I mean, this was the first book by Nalini that I've actually read, and it was because you recommended it. And now my Kindle, which I got last week, has got 3 of them on there. I blame you. I'm so glad I got Amazon vouchers as a gift, because my Amazon account is going to be very empty.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you.
That's your intention, wasn't it?
I'll hold the blame. I'll hold the blame. Bring it. I'm fine with that. I would also just say that speaks a lot to it, right? Like, you read the first one, you're like, oh, where's the second? And I read the first one and I did the same thing. I went looking for the next stuff in the series. And so I think it's a little like Candy. It's really clear that the races in this book are sort of a stand-in for actual race, right? But it's not so in your face that you have to think about it in terms of our very depressing world. And
you have to be politically aware, which is what I try and switch off when I'm reading a book.
Right. And so it can still be enjoyable even if you're not thinking of it in those terms. And what's nice too is that it's very clear that sort of anything goes, right? Humans with humans, and changeling with psy, and humans with psy, and changelings with humans. And so, and you get into those mixed couples a lot in the later books. The first couple of books are just psy and changeling, right?
Yeah.
Sasha and so, but what you don't realize is that, like in the in this first, do what?
Are you spoiling now?
No. There's a not really. There's a I'm just going to tell you that there's a human who's mated to a Dark River leopard actually in the first book, but if you blink, you'll miss it.
I missed it.
Right. I mean, and you don't have to pick it up. You know what I mean? But it's in there. And there's like a little short story that has that in there. So
it's one of the novellas.
Yeah, it's one of the novellas. And so if you get a chance to pick up the novellas, maybe as a combined volume, I would tell you to do that. But rather than spending $2.99 each for a book that you'll read in 15 minutes or 30 maybe. But that kind of thing. I'm just saying that I'm not trying to spoil things, but what you find in Nalini Singh is that kind of anything goes, and that's for the races. Like they can interbreed. Right, they can interbreed.
Right, yeah, I'm reading Brenna and Judd right now.
Oh yes.
So the third book.
He's scary.
He is. He's very intense, but I think
he's not a cardinal. So that tells you just how powerful you have to be high on the scale, right, without crossing over to cardinal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I found with the first one was I loved Lucas, and I wanted to find out more about him and his pack.
Right.
Sasha was, for me, not quite as intriguing. I felt really sorry for her.
Do you think it's because the story is told largely from her point of view, so all your questions about her are already answered?
Yeah, I think that might have something to do with it. I think because it was so introspective, saw so much from her view and her feelings of the killer and how the killer felt. We're not going to go into who that was because you really should read it. But that actually, I have to say, came as a huge surprise to me.
Did it?
In some ways. In other ways, it's sort of like maybe that person, no, it won't be. They won't do that.
Right.
And when it finally came to the big reveal, it was like, oh, I missed that sign. And I thought, what was I doing when I missed that sign? It was actually quite obvious, but it wasn't, if that makes sense. So when it came to Sasha's story, I already knew so much about her. I was more intrigued by Lucas. And I think even in the further books, we're still finding out little things about him as they're revealing more about the other characters who are central to the second, third, and whatever books. Though I'm only halfway through the third, I have to say.
Again, it's the world building thing, right? She just does a really good job of building these really rich worlds. And as you get into it, you'll find that, yes, she's spending a lot of time with the Dark River leopards, and then she spends a lot of time with the Snow Dancer wolves. But we also get introduced in later books to black edge, I think it's black edge bears that are, in Russia kind of thing. And,
right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting too because she pulls from a very international thing. So the world in her books is actually much smaller. And, it might be a consequence of, hey, you can take an hour-long flight and get to Venice, right? So you get introduced to a lot of different things, and I think her world building is fantastic. And she continues world building throughout the psy-changeling novels, but I also like her other series, the Guild Hunter series, and she does a great job world building there as well. So I feel like I should mention she's not an American author, and so she's not writing from sort of this Americentric point of view, which is a nice touch.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that the one thing that she's done that is, I knew that she wasn't an American, because at the front of every single book it gives you a bit of information about her. And I did a bit of research because that's just the way I am anyway. And the one thing that I found is her writing of Americanized characters is far more convincing than a lot of authors who aren't American that do the same thing. I'm not going to name any specific names, though I'm sure Sally knows who I mean. But there are some that have this very, very strange view of how America works. I've been there a few times, but I've never claimed to be an expert. That's why I have friends who I can ask.
What, you mean friends that live there?
Well, yeah, exactly. So friends who've got experience. And like when I needed information on Iowa, who did I go to? I went to T because she knew all about it. But at the same time, it's like somebody going and writing about England and not having a clue. Because we're not all tea drinkers. She says, drinking her tea. We're not all tea drinkers who have scones with cream and jam every afternoon. We don't all live in mansions, and we don't all speak like me either.
But I think, though, to be fair, there's a certain shorthand that authors use to try and place you in a story. So with the British, it's the tea and the scones thing, right? And so I remember being at Disneyland Paris many, many years ago, like 20 plus. And my cousin and I wrote It's a Small World. And it's a really odd, sort of surreal experience to write It's a Small World and hear it in French, but that's neither here nor there. And it got to the America one, and it was Minnie Mouse in a hoop skirt and Mickey Mouse dressed up in Western gear, sand six shooters. And by Western gear, I mean like chaps and the vest. And so it was kind of like the shorthand for America was the Western cowboy and the Southern belle, when in actuality, very few Southern women ever were the Southern belle. So, it's a shorthand kind of thing. And I think that's, it's useful, I think, for some authors. But if you're really digging into what Americans look like, act like, do, you're going to have to have an American or someone who has a lot of American sort of influence in order to make that work, but convincingly.
Have American friends.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's my biggest recommendation is when you're writing about anything you don't know about, speak with people. One of the things I love about Jilly Cooper, and I know that her books are quite derided by a large majority of the population. Oh, another Jilly Cooper's come out. It's just going to be sex and horses. She does her research. If you read her books, the first 2 pages of almost every single book are thank yous to the people she's spoken to get information about the world she's writing about. And that seriously is my recommendation for any writer. As a writer, my recommendation is if you've got a question, you don't know the answer, don't just look it up on the internet. Wikipedia is not the best resource. Speak with people, ask people, go on forums and say, hi, does anybody know about this? Because that's always going to be the best source. And that's what I think a lot of writers miss. And I think that Nalini Singh obviously did masses of research into getting the pattern of speech right, the culture and everything else, even though she was creating her own world, and it's made it such a good world to read about.
Right. Well, the other thing, and I think if you do decide to read like the Guild Hunter series, I think that you would find a similar kind of thing, that you would feel like she'd built a really good world. And it's even for that reason alone, I would tell you that you should probably pick this book up. But okay, so is there anything else we wanted to say about this book in particular? I will say in advance that my favorite book of the psy-changeling series, hands down, is book 12, Heart of Obsidian. And I think that's a book you have to, and I'm going to use a phraseology that might be a little difficult. I think you have to earn it to love it like I do, just because I think you have to be invested in the characters and really kind of like dig into the world, and then you will adore the book because but there's so much going on. Like, oh my gosh, you finally find out who this major character is in the Psy universe and all this stuff that you don't know about. And, oh, it's amazing.
I'm looking very, very blank right now because I don't think I've read far enough to know.
It's this through thread that she picks up, and literally you follow this character. He's like very much a secondary character, but very important. And you follow him through, and you finally find out about him in book 12. And it's like, oh my gosh. Now, you can spoil yourself if you want to, but I would tell you not to, because it is just amazing.
See, I'm desperately looking forward to book 10.
Which is
Sienna and Hawke.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite funny he's called Hawke and he's a wolf.
Yeah, they mention that.
But that's the one I'm really looking forward to because already I'm invested in him as a character.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's what I find quite interesting, is the fact that I'm already invested in a character who has a big role to play in a future book. He's an alpha. He's the alpha of the wolf pack. But I'm already invested in him more than I am invested in the character I'm actually reading about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I find that I love the series.
I know.
And I'll be honest, there are a few that I didn't love as much as others. And literally, I think we've gotten to book 15. Okay, so it's only this most recent book that I've been like, I haven't been able to get through. Like, but that's the first one I've ever read that I haven't been able to get through. But that's, you know what? I'm gonna buy the next one.
It might just be a blip. It's kind of like, where the next book is my choice, and it's actually not the first book in a series, but it is part of a series. And I reached a point in this particular series where I was like, do I read any more? And now I can take or leave. And the thing is, I absolutely loved the first 11 or 12 books in the series.
Wow.
And now it's a new one's come out, and it's not the first thing I click buy on anymore.
Okay, so I do want to say also, if you are a fan of Nalini Singh or you think you might like her, as I've mentioned, Guild Hunter series, and that is about an angel, an archangel, really. It starts out with an archangel and a guild hunter, and she builds a fantastic world. And then she's also got a contemporary series called the Rock Hard series, and it's about a rock band. So, but it's just contemporary. And in this one, she kind of gives, how do I want to put this?
Cleanly?
The superpower of that world is that they're wealthy, so they don't have to worry about money.
Oh, it sounds like a book series I read when I was in my teens.
But they don't have to worry about money because they're wealthy, and so, you know, you can concentrate on other things. Like, it's just one less thing to worry about. And it's that series, especially the first one in that series. Ray and I were talking about doing a potential heat rating for our books that we review. I would say the Rock series is like if we're going to go on a 10-point scale, I'm calling it a 10. I'm calling it a 10.
This is the one that's in my inbox, right? That you've loaned from your Kindle to mine.
Yes.
I'm definitely going to have to read that now.
It's a 10. It is a 10 on the heat scale. But which is not to say there aren't 10 pluses out there, but this one's a 10. I would say that if we're going to use our 10-point scale as opposed to a 5-point scale, I would say that this book, Slave to Sensation, is probably an 8. So if Princess Bride is a 1, then I'd be happy to let my 10-year-old read.
Disney's a 1 as well.
Which one?
Disney. Pretty much Disney.
Disney. Yeah. If we're talking G-rated, slightly PG-rated 1, this is more of an 8. And I would say that Rock Addiction is a 9 or a 10.
You see, I'd have given this one a 6 or 7 on the heat scale. Okay. Not saying 6 or 7 as a book scale, but 6 or 7 on the heat scale. But I don't know if that's because...
Well, you probably don't have a 10 plus. You just have a 10, right?
Probably.
See, I have a 10 plus.
But then I don't have children. And I think that when you have children, you rate things differently.
True.
Because I don't think, would I recommend this to my child? I think, would my niece even pick it up? Or would I have read this when I was 10?
This book is 18 plus, right? This book is 18 plus.
Say it's an 18 plus. I definitely say it's an 18 plus. So if you're...
Well, but The Princess Bride is a 10-year-old book, right? 10-year plus, 8-year plus. There's a kiss kind of thing. And
there's a kiss and a bit of a roll in the hay that's never really a roll in the hay. It's not really...
That's okay, but they don't...
No, they don't get naked.
Yeah. They don't bone.
No, they don't bone.
And they bone a lot in this book.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of... sensual scenes as well, with the mind connection and everything else. And she feels a lot of heat from him.
Yeah. And the Rock series, the contemporary series, is just... Wow.
Smart.
There's some...
Maybe we could do that for our erotic episode.
I don't know that I'd call it erotica, but it's getting close.
Well, there you go. So there are Sally's recommendations here. The Guild Hunter series, and if you like your contemporary romance to be hot off the scale, definitely look at the Rock Hard series.
I don't know this off the scale.
Your scale.
Yeah, no, it's just a 10 on my scale. I've read off my scale. You know what? Let's just call it a 9. Let's call it a 9. That way, that way, I've got a 10, but it's at least a 9. And if that's a 9, then this book's a 7.
Well,
and a half.
A 7.5. Okay. Well, last week on our Twitter feed, we did a poll that was all about your favorite romances in Star Wars.
Yes.
And as Sally predicted quite early on, I think, the winner of that particular poll was Kylo Ren and Rey
of Jakku.
Is that how she's referred to, Rey of Jakku?
She's just Rey. She doesn't have her parents are dead in the desert. They were nobodies, so she's just Rey. And Rey of Jakku just sort of, yeah. And you look shocked when I say she's nobody.
No. I wasn't looking shocked at that. I was looking shocked at the actual results.
Okay.
Because I'm looking up right now, and Kylo Ren and Rey won with 76% of votes. 21 people voted, so yay on that one. 76% of the vote went to Kylo Ren and Rey. I would say a close second, but it wasn't really close, with Han and Leia with 10%. Mm-hmm. Then other went to 9% voted for other, and I think that one of those other was the relationship we briefly touched on last week.
Janera.
That's
Janera.
it. And then just 5% voted for Anakin and Padme. So those poor Starcrossed lovers who were destined never to be together only got 5%. So maybe they feel about Starcrossed lovers as we do. I don't know.
You know, I had someone tell me, yeah, I don't like Starcrossed lovers trope either.
That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's my least favorite trope. I was like, see?
Well, this week we've got a poll on the Twitter feed, and I keep on calling it a blog, but it's not. It's on the Twitter feed. That is all about your favorite supernatural type of romance. And at the moment, it's 50-50 with shapeshifters and vampires. But there are still 8 hours left, so go ahead and vote, share it, like it. It's on ISN Romance on Twitter.
Okay.
And of course, we have got Goodreads. So,
yes.
Romance Not Dead. Search for us on there, join the group, have a chat in the forums, and let us know what you think about the latest book that we've just finished. And wow, I'm just going through all the things we do. And we also have a blog. We have a summary of last week's podcast on there. And this week we looked at supernatural romances. So, of course, there's a nice long post all about Buffy and Angel. Let us know your thoughts. Were they your favourites? Did you read fanfic and long for Willow and Spike to be together like I did? Or were you a fan of Spuffy, which sounds so wrong? And of course, there is next week's book, next month's book now. So in a fortnight, we will be discussing the 7th book, I think, in the Dark Hunter series by Sherilyn Kenyon. That is Night Play, which is we've got another changeling. Well, they're not called changeling. He's a werehunter.
And this is magical, though, right?
Yeah,
this is not.
This is the realm of mythology, almost.
Myth and magic.
Because we have Artemis and Apollo, and the tales of Atlantis, and this story
she was really hitting her stride with this. This series at this point, because the first one in that series, I remember reading it and being kind of like meh, and then
Valerius.
But I went ahead and picked it up anyway, and then by the time we get to 7, I was just
enamored.
Yes, ma'am.
So
she was hitting her stride with
I agree. I loved this one, and I loved Valerius as well, Valerius' story. But
I'm going to have to go back and reread Valerius' story.
Yeah. This is Night Play by Sherilyn Kenyon.
Okay.
So definitely go ahead and get that one if you haven't got it already. I know that I've got it sitting on my bookcase ready to open probably tomorrow.
Yep. Got it. Perfect.
Okay.
So we're definitely going to do that. So next book, Sherilyn Kenyon, Night Play. And then next week, our topic is going to be one of our trope episodes where we talk about the self-rescuing princess versus the damsel in distress, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that should be our Twitter poll. Which do you prefer, the self-rescuing princess or the damsel in distress? Anyway, and we would love to hear who your favorites of these are, right?
Oh, yeah. That poll will be posted on Thursday.
Perfect. All right, well, then let's call it a day for today. And thank you all for listening to us, and we would love to hear from you. And tell us what you think. Let us know. And, thanks for listening. Ray, how would you like to sign out?
Keep on searching for your happily ever after.
Wonderful. And I would just remind you that romance isn't dead. It's alive and well on our bookshelves. Bye.
Bye.